Yesterday, President Trump said, quote, "I think I have more power now after the bill's passage." Scott, just talk to us about how significant this victory is for his administration. I mean, you heard him just a moment ago talk about trillions of investment, jobs at an all-time high. As far as the bill is concerned, saying more money for the military. There's money for civilians of all types, child tax credits, biggest bill of any type in history. What is that all about?
These are extended remarks, Jerika, because the president is trying to emphasize that this is a victory. He is trying to declare a victory for the country and for his party. And he really overcame some hurdles to get this thing passed. There were dissenting voices inside the Republican Party, some who thought this spirals the deficit further. Huge debt concerns. Others said this risks cutting Medicaid to people who need it. In fact, the critics of this bill say this could cost Medicaid and nutritional assistance to millions of Americans. So it's been controversial, but he got it through on a party line vote against some odds. A few things he mentioned during these remarks. He called it the most popular bill ever signed. That's kind of the issue here. It is not polled well. There's no sense the country has galvanized behind this bill or knows much about it. He's going to take this signing ceremony and try to amplify the bill, trying to make it popular. But tell you this, Jerika, no matter what, this signing ceremony you're about to see, it's going to get clipped and used by both parties. Republicans think this is a win. Democrats think this is a political pariah they can mechanize in the 2026 midterms.
Scott, I want to go now to congressional correspondent Nicole Killion. She's on Capitol Hill for us. How does this bill affect Americans, Nicole?
Well, I think as you heard the president say there, he believes that there is something for everybody in this package. You know, the centerpiece of this new law, once he signs it, is an extension of his 2017 tax cut. So, for instance, families will notice an increase in the child tax credit of up to $2,200. It also increases spending on border security and military, top domestic priorities of his. It also features popular proposals like no taxes on tips and overtime, something he campaigned on, although those provisions are temporary. But in order to pay for some of this, it does come with some pretty deep spending cuts, as Scott mentioned, to food assistance programs like SNAP, as well as Medicaid. And the Congressional Budget Office projects that this could add upwards of $3.4 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years. So that has been a concern among some lawmakers here on Capitol Hill. Worth pointing out to people as well that many of these tax provisions in particular will likely take effect as soon as this year, but some of those changes to Medicaid and food assistance programs, like implementing those new work requirements, will be phased in the coming years. Jerika.
He came down hard on Democrats and said that those who didn't vote for him had a hatred for the country or me or both. There seems to be issues with any type of criticism, and as you mentioned, that $3.4 trillion that it could add to the deficit. Talk about the expectation of how this could affect Republicans in the next year's midterms.
Well, I think this bill and this legislation will be a point of litigation, not only for Republicans, but also for Democrats, because clearly they see the impact of this bill differently. You know, you heard the president there kind of take aim at Democrats, suggesting that they are, not being upfront with respect to this package, suggesting people are going to die. And you heard him say, well, I think people are going to live. So I think you're going to continue to hear those competing talking points as we approach next year's midterms. But worth pointing out that we saw, for instance, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis, who was up for re-election next year, announced earlier this week that he would not run again. And while he told me that it wasn't specifically because of this bill, he did express some very deep reservations about this package, particularly those changes to Medicaid, as did Susan Collins, another Senate Republican who opposed this package. She, too, faces a decision about whether she's going to run again next year. And of course, you had Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who also opposed this package. Of course, in the House, we saw Tom Massie, also a fellow Kentuckian, as well as Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. So the president did face some defections with respect to this bill, even though it was passed along party lines. But certainly it will be in play come next year for the midterms.
Yeah.